Melting glaciers and rising sea levels. How melting glaciers are affecting climate and people. Melting glaciers affect people because when stored fresh water is released into the ocean, causing threats to the plant growth and food growth, drinking water supplies, and power generation, which affects people by shortening resources for people to survive. Melting ice is causing more warming because when heat and sun reflect off the snow, 90% of the sun's heat is reflected back into space. Since ocean and land absorb more solar heat and then release it into the atmosphere, which causes global warming to occur. With temperatures rising, this affects habitats for animals and agriculture and the lives of humans. How can we help stop the glaciers from melting? To decrease your own personal carbon footprint, you can drive little as possible, use public transportation systems, unplug electronics if not in use, turn lights off if they're not needed. Most people use fossil fuels in their everyday life. Using these things increases the climate, which is warming the oceans and affecting the glaciers. To stunt the melting of glaciers, people in our community can switch to renewable resources such as wind turbines, solar energy, etc. to decrease the community's carbon footprint.
How melting glaciers affect sea ice to break. Sea ice is breaking off into the Arctic. It's melting much faster than it should, which is very alarming. All the ice is currently melting that is currently melting will mostly be gone by 2100. Some places are turning into an insecure water country like Canada. The Arctic Sea ice forms when the water temp is below negative 1.8 degrees Celsius and between 28.7 degrees Fahrenheit. Enough heat has to be last in the atmosphere before the freezing begins. The water will start to fill up with little tiny crystals called frazzles. After glaciers form into big blobs of ice that are called nails, that makes the water look shiny, which another word used for it is greasy ice. Cause it cause it makes the water look really shiny. The the movement is caused by the global circulation of ocean water, which regulates the Earth's temp. When the ice freezes and becomes thicker, it expands salt into the water below. The salt mixes with water from the Atlantic Ocean, causing the water to sink and eventually returns to the south. The salt expands upwards to form of frost flowers. Um, More information about how melting sea ice affects glaciers. Composed of salt and water vapor is freezing that is freezing cold air. During the winter, clouds act as a blanket that traps warmth. Global warming is more visible in the summertime, where more ice melts, but the Arctic warms a lot more faster in the winter. The Arctic could lose all summer sea ice at least by 2100 or even early as 2030. But some scientists say we should be prepared for any extreme event that wipes out all the ice in the Arctic.
How glaciers are affected how glaciers affect rising sea levels. Melting glaciers and rising sea levels, which increase coastal erosion and elevate storms as warming air and ocean's temperatures create more often and intense coastal storms like hurricanes and typhoons. The global sea level is rising from one primary cause, the expansion of ocean water as it warms. The effect of sea level rising is erosion of beaches, overflowing of delta, as well as flooding and loss of many marshes and wetlands. How will the Earth end up in the future if things like this continue? As the sea levels continue to rise throughout the years, long-term flooding will spread and more land will be permanently lost to the ocean. If all the ice caps and glaciers are melted, the global sea level would go up around 70 meters, flooding every coastal city in the world.